Congressman Alexander Vindman asked Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth a simple question. Do you owe a military mother an apology? Hegseth's refusal didn't just spark a viral clip about a signal chat. It pointed to something bigger. Whether the people at the very top of the Pentagon think the rules apply to them the same way they apply to everyone else.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I ask unanimous consent to submit for the record an article. A distinguished member of this committee,
without objection, so ordered,
confirmed that there was, in fact, a pause in offensive cyber operations earlier this year. The SecDef just denied this. This committee deserves to know whether the Secretary just lied. Mr. Secretary, many believed you were underqualified for this role. You've been Secretary for 4.5 months now. For the sake of the American people and our service members, I hope you've done your homework since. Let's talk Indo-PACOM. What year has the Navy publicly set as the benchmark for being ready to fight a war with China?
Well, it needs to be right now. We know what China has said.
I'm glad to hear that, but there is a publicly set date.
Well, we know it wouldn't be prudent for me in this environment to reveal when we think we're ready. That's what China has said, and we understand what they're saying, and we want to be capable and ready for it.
Not a filibuster. 2027 is the year. According to unclassified DoD assessments, how many warships does China have in its Navy today?
Many and growing.
370. It's the largest Navy in the world. How many does the U.S. Navy have today?
Thanks to this budget, it's increasing
it's a number. I'm looking for a
number. But it's just south of 300.
296, pretty close. How many ships is China expected to field by 2030?
I believe that's a classified number, but it's going to go up at a rapid rate.
There's a DoD report that was released. There's an unclassified number.
It's going up at a rapid rate.
Let me help you out. 435. Let's see if we do better in EUCOM. What corridor in eastern Poland is vulnerable and a priority for U.S. reinforcements? It connects Belarus to a Russian region.
I'm sure you can tell me.
I can tell you. It's the Suwalki Gap. Which heavily militarized Russian territory connected the Suwalki Gap? It contains nuclear-capable missiles. It threatens all of NATO. It's right there in the middle of Eastern Europe.
I see we're playing a quiz game here.
It's
ultimately, thankfully, we're getting our NATO allies to step up in their spending to make sure that they can hold the line.
Mr. Secretary, I asked you a specific question. Thank you. It's Kaliningrad Oblast. So what percentage of Ukrainian frontline casualties, let's talk drones, are now caused by FPV drones?
A very large percentage, and we're studying that conflict closely to understand
I hope so.
that fact.
It's over 70%. And which U.S. service has written doctrine or standardized procurement for integration of FPV drones?
That's the Army.
I wish that were the case, but actually the answer is none of them. So we're not prepared yet, and we need to get there fast. Let me turn to a different topic. A few weeks ago, when my office opened up in Fredericksburg, I spoke to the mother of one F-18 pilot who flew the March 15th mission over the Red Sea in Yemen that you discussed over Signal. I spoke to her again on Tuesday and asked her if there was anything she wanted me to bring up. She believes that you need to resign. She also had several questions, but one thing, she said she would appreciate an apology for putting classified information. Her son couldn't even tell her where the Truman was going, but into the Houthi PC small group signal chat that risked her son's life and the mission. Mr. Secretary, yes or no, do you think you owe her an apology?
Please make sure to let her know how grateful we are for the skill and heroism of her.
I am very much grateful. I'm sure everybody in this room is grateful. I'm proud of what her son has done. The question is, do you owe her an apology for your actions? Are you going to be accountable?
It was an incredibly successful mission. Her son did great work.
They did a magnificent job.
Thankfully, the Houthi campaign was successful.
Secretary, I agree with you. Magnificent job. The performance of those pilots and Navy personnel, magnificent. We're talking about what you did and accountability. Are you going to apologize to the mother or not?
I don't apologize for success.
You don't apologize for putting her son's life in danger and for putting the mission in jeopardy. Well, that's really disappointing and not befitting the type of leadership that our troops and families deserve. It's frankly a stunning lack of OPSEC. privates are trained to do much better than that. It was reckless. And it sounds like that accountability doesn't extend as far as the Secretary of Defense. So I think you should resign. The mother says she wants you gone. And with that, I yield back.
What made this exchange so unsettling wasn't just the sharp tone from Vindman or the way Hegseth kept sliding around the question, it was what the moment represented. Two different realities collided on camera. One reality is the one military families live in. It's rules, discipline, and silence. It's a culture where you learn fast that small details aren't small. Timing matters, movement matters, confirmation matters. Even saying, yeah, that's where we're headed, can be the missing puzzle piece for someone who wants to hurt you. That's why pilots and sailors don't get to talk freely. Not because they're cold, not because they don't want to reassure their families, but because operational security is treated like a survival skill. It's drilled into people at the lowest level, and when someone slips, the consequences aren't theoretical. People can lose clearances, people can lose careers, and in the worst case, people can lose lives. So, when Vindman brings up the mother of an F-18 pilot, that's not a politician pulling a random sob story out of thin air. That's him dragging the real cost into a room that usually runs on abstractions. Think about what that mother is asked to do. Her son is deploying, she's worried, she's proud, she's scared, and she has to sit with the fear quietly because she knows she isn't supposed to know the details. She doesn't get the comfort of specifics. She doesn't get the, don't worry, we'll be here for the next 2 weeks. She gets a few careful words, and then she waits. That waiting is part of the sacrifice. Military families don't just sacrifice time. They sacrifice certainty. They sacrifice the ability to calm themselves with information. They accept it because they believe the system is careful. They believe the people in charge understand why the secrecy exists. Now imagine how it feels to learn that the people at the top treated that same seriousness like it was optional. This is why the signal detail hits so hard. It's not about being anti-technology or nitpicking which app someone used. It's about casualness. It's about the posture behind it, the feeling that the rules that cage everyone else don't quite reach the people with the biggest titles. And that's why Vindman's question was framed as a yes or no moral test. Do you owe her an apology? Because an apology here isn't a PR move. It's a signal to the entire system. It's leadership saying, I understand the standard and I'm not above it. And Hegseth's answer, I don't apologize for success, is exactly the kind of answer that breaks trust, even if you agree with his politics, even if you like his vibe, even if you think he's being tough. Because in the military, success doesn't erase a bad process. You don't get to violate the standard and then point at the scoreboard like it's a magic shield. In fact, the most dangerous time to ignore mistakes is after you win, because winning hides what almost went wrong. That's how near misses become tragedies. You get away with a shortcut, nothing happens. So you do it again, still nothing happens. The shortcut becomes normal, and then one day the environment changes, the enemy adapts, or luck runs out. And everyone asks the same question after the fact, why didn't anybody stop this earlier? Vindman is speaking from that world. From the world where you do after-action reviews, even when everything went fine. Because the goal isn't just to win once. The goal is to be reliable, repeatable, safe. That's what professionals care about. And you can see Vindman building toward that point before the apology question even comes up. The quiz portion isn't random. It's not just him showing off that he knows defense talking points. He's testing whether the person sitting in the Secretary of Defense chair has the basic grasp of unclassified realities that a leader at that level should have. Indo-Pacific readiness. The China timeline everyone talks about openly. The size of China's navy. US ship counts. The Suwalki Gap. Kaliningrad. FPV drones in Ukraine and what they're doing to modern war. These aren't niche trivia questions. These are the kinds of facts that shape budgets, deployments, deterrence strategy, and training priorities. And when the answers are fuzzy, evasive, or just wrong, it does something in the viewer's brain. It makes the later "trust me" lines feel hollow. It makes the "we're grateful" language sound like a cover instead of a command presence. That's why this clip spreads. Because it isn't only about one comment. It's about a pattern people recognize. Powerful people who want the authority of the job without carrying the weight of it. You can feel it in the way Vindman keeps repeating the frame. He does something really smart, and it's very simple. He separates praise for the troops from accountability for leadership over and over. Yes, magnificent job by the pilots. Then immediately, we're talking about what you did. That is a retention-friendly move because it keeps the moral lines clean. It prevents the escape hatch where leaders hide behind the people who actually did the work. It forces the audience to stay focused on the person responsible for the decision-making environment. And it also taps into a deeper frustration viewers already have. The sense that accountability always flows downward. Regular people get fired for mistakes. Junior employees get written up. Low-ranking service members get punished for a careless post or a sloppy procedure. But at the top, the rules get softer, the consequences get negotiated. The language gets vague, and the public is told to accept it because the mission was successful. That's why Vindman's "even privates are trained to do better" line is so brutal. It's not a personal insult. It's a reminder of the standard mismatch. It's saying, if the lowest-ranked people can be trained to take this seriously, why are we watching the highest-ranked people shrug it off? And then comes the mother again. The mother is the anchor. She is what keeps this from turning into a sterile committee exchange. Because military families aren't asking for perfection. They know mistakes happen. What they're asking for is respect. They're asking for leaders who don't treat their fear like an inconvenience. They're asking for leaders who understand that families carry stress that never shows up in a press briefing. When Vindman says he spoke to her again and she asked for an apology, that's a very human request. It's not partisan. It's not complicated. It's the simplest form of accountability. I recognize that what I did could have made things more dangerous, and I'm sorry. And notice the trap Hegseth fell into. He tries to answer with praise. He tries to wrap himself in gratitude. But Vindman doesn't allow it, because he knows praise can be used as a shield. He keeps pulling it back to the same point. Are you going to be accountable? This is what high-retention commentary does. It takes a messy moment and reduces it to a single question the audience can track. It's a thread the viewer can hold even if they missed a line or got distracted for a second. And that thread is, do leaders think they're above consequences? Now here's the psychological part viewers respond to: fairness. People can tolerate mistakes. They can even tolerate bad luck. What they struggle to tolerate is unfairness, especially when the stakes are life and death. Military families accept that their kids will be asked to risk everything, but they want to believe that the system takes that risk seriously at every level. When it looks like the risk is treated casually by leadership, the unfairness becomes unbearable. That's why an apology matters. Not because it changes the past, but because it rebalances the moral equation. It says, I'm not insulated, I'm not exempt, I'm part of the same standard. And refusing to apologize communicates the opposite. I'm untouchable. That is why Vindman ends where he ends. He doesn't just say this was disappointing, he goes to resignation. Because if someone can't even acknowledge the standard, why should anyone believe they'll meet it next time? And that ties back to what YouTube viewers want from this kind of content. Clarity, moral coherence, and a sense that someone is finally saying the quiet part out loud. Viewers don't need 1,000 policy details to feel what's happening here. They need someone to translate the dynamic, the gap between what the institution demands from the bottom and what it tolerates at the top. That's also why the clip feels bigger than a chat app or one hearing. It speaks to something structural. Civilian control of the military is essential, but it comes with responsibility. If civilians in leadership roles treat military discipline like a suggestion, they weaken the institution they're supposed to oversee. And the scary part is, this isn't just about image. It impacts readiness. If you can't enforce standards uniformly, you can't build a culture where people speak up about risks. People learn quickly what gets rewarded. If leadership rewards denial and punishes embarrassment, then the message down the chain is, don't report problems, don't admit mistakes, don't raise concerns, just protect the narrative. That's how organizations drift into disaster, not from one big bad decision, but from a culture that trains everyone to look away. So the real question isn't just, did the mission succeed? The real question is, what standard are we normalizing? Because if the standard becomes, we don't apologize as long as the optics are good, then the people paying the price will never be the people saying the line. The people paying the price will be the ones who can't speak in the room, the ones flying the mission, the ones sitting on the ship, the ones waiting at home. And one more thing. Notice how simple the emotional arc is for the viewer. You start with competence. Can you answer basic questions? Then you move to character. Can you own a mistake? Then you land on empathy. Can you look a parent in the eye and respect what they carry? That progression keeps people watching because it feels like a real test unfolding in real time. You're not just consuming news, you're watching a verdict form fill out line by line, and that's why this moment landed the way it did. It's a small exchange with a big shadow. If you're watching this and you're not even a military person, the takeaway is still simple. The next time you hear successful mission used as a blanket excuse, remember this clip. Remember the mother. Remember the idea that success isn't a permission slip to be reckless. Because accountability isn't about humiliation, it's about learning. It's about protecting people who can't afford your shortcuts. And if accountability doesn't reach the top, then the word stops meaning anything at all.